welcome to another video of Doing, Being, Becoming, where we aim to inform, impact, influence, and inspire. My name is Asisipo, your favorite occupational therapist. So in a recent blog post, I wrote about the key lessons I've learned from living alone, and today I'm going to be creating a video about that in case you don't like reading, or maybe you just like the sound of my voice and the look of my face and would rather listen to my lessons instead of reading them. So again, with this video, my hope is that you may also reflect on the lessons that your current life stage is teaching you, because in the end, nothing happens for nothing. Everything happens for a reason, and every season, hey, has a lesson or 2 or 3, and it would be horrible for you to move through that season without gaining the tools, skills, lessons, reflections, introspections that are necessary for you. So let's go! Okay, so first lesson I've learned from living alone is that life is lonely. Life is lonely. You are born alone. You will die alone. In the most honest and morbid way possible. Life is lonely. And life, I don't know, maybe you can share your own experience, but yeah. I don't know. I feel like life gets lonelier as you grow, because the people that you grew up with, you kind of lose along the way. Whether it's because those relationships end, those people move away from you, or some of those people pass away, unfortunately, and you kind of like have to form new adult relationships, which is like a whole other story and a video for another day, because adult friendships are so unnecessarily difficult and just hard work, so if you don't make a deliberate effort to connect with people, then sana you're gonna be alone, especially if you move because of work or school or whatever it is. Then you are going to be alone. So life is relatively lonely, which is why it is important that you form a good and healthy relationship with yourself, because at the end of the days, when the sun has set and the ocean is quiet, you are the person that you are gonna have, you're gonna be the person that you are left with. And you need to come to a place where you are at peace with yourself, where you like yourself, and that you enjoy your own company. Because if you don't enjoy your own company, you're gonna be miserable. You're always going to look for people to surround yourself with so that you can feel good, which isn't realistic. Because even if you are somebody who's social, right, and spend your whole week at work and have events afterwards and things on the weekend, at the end of the day, you're gonna, depending, but you're gonna be left with your own thoughts and your own self, and you need to be okay with the person that you are. So so life is lonely, and therefore you need to be your own friend, essentially. Second thing I've learned from being or living alone is being independent. And this is not the unhealthy, womandla, feminist, I can do everything by myself, I don't need no man, I don't need anybody's help. No, because that's toxic, that's unhealthy. We all need help, we all need people. We are social beings who are made by community, for community, to thrive in community. Therefore, at some point or another, we're always going to need human contact to assist us or boost us or meet whatever need. So I've learned to be more independent in the sense that obviously I've learned how to do things by myself. For example, I don't think I would have gained the cooking skills that I have now if I was staying with my mom, because my mom cooks and I love my mom's food. So I probably would have stayed in that comfort zone, which is probably like a bonus point, right, of living alone, is how to thrive in discomfort. But anyway, so learning how to be more independent in terms of choosing what are the habits that I want to live by, choosing how I want to spend my time. Now I have to do things like budgeting. Now I must do my own washing and think about how am I going to fix my washing machine when it's broken. Excuse me. Now I have to buy prepaid water, which is kind of ghetto, I feel. But anyway, it is what it is. So, just being more independent in terms of that. So with that and learning how to allocate my time, being or living alone has allowed me to draw closer to God, because obviously now I have more uninterrupted time and more alone time and more time that I can use in prayer, in worship, in studying my word, and it's this beautiful culture. It is a culture because it's my household culture, okay? It's a beautiful culture where I'll be doing whatever I'm doing in the house and just having, God, like how? I don't understand, and I don't know if I'd be able to do that if I was living with people, because they probably think I'm crazy. And then this girl, she's just gonna burst out and have a conversation on her own, But since I'm living alone, I can do that, So it's really allowed me the opportunity to draw closer to God. Another thing that has taught me is how to be intentional, right? So like I mentioned earlier as a joke, household culture, but also just being intentional, number one, about the relationships that I have, right? Because obviously, like I said, life is lonely, and because the relationships that are important to you are most likely far from you, you have to put in effort. It's not going to be someone about you're going to meet them, go pick a bag, oh word, can we go grab a coffee? No, well, it doesn't happen for me, So you have to be more intentional about allocating time to spend with the people that you value, and being intentional about maintaining those relationships, being intentional about creating adult friendships relationships, but also being more intentional about what is the culture that I want my family to have one day. What is the culture that I want my kids to have one day? A culture of health and prioritizing health, for example, a culture of cleanliness, and also seeing that oh my word, now it's not my parents who are forcing me to do these things, forcing me to do the bed and forcing me to wash the dishes, but I'm doing these things because I want to do them and I see the value of doing them for myself. Because it's also for me, one thing that I've realized that it's an important mental health practice for myself is creating a cozy sanctuary where I'm staying, right? So making it a place where, although outside the door it can feel foreign and new, but where I am, that needs to feel like the homeliest home that I've ever lived in, right? So it's also about keeping, that feeling of home and creating that feeling of home, for myself. Poisa. I'm a number poise. Yeah, so it's just being intentional about those practices. And then last thing is the value of community. The value of community. I think, obviously I've been living in Cape Town now for 2 years now, yeah. And I think one of the things that I've struggled with is forming community, just really forming relationships with people that are like, these are my people, okay? And not to say that there aren't people, there are people, but there's just a lot of mental blockage, but anyway. And I realized, how I took it for granted to be in spaces where community was ready-made. Growing up in a family, that's community. Growing up in a family that goes to church, that's already another community. Growing up in a particular neighborhood, that's already a community. Being a part of a certain family, that's a ready-made community. Going to a certain school, that's already a part of a community that has, firstly 800 people in my high school, and then being a part of a university community, right, where yes, you may find your own people, but you're part of a larger community, and you all kind of are here together, so now that I'm like kind of more out alone in the open, I'm like, and having to create the community by myself, I realize community is really important. And I think for a lot of us, we want so badly to break away. We want so badly to break away, to be alone, to form our own identity. And that's great. Individuation, I think there's a place for it. But again, I do believe that, all of us are meant for community, not necessarily large communities, not necessarily community all the time, but community definitely is important to serve us, for us to serve. It's important for community. I mean, it's important for accountability and for growth. And with that being said, if you aren't part of this community, please subscribe to the O Team and do the necessary things. So those are just some of the things that living alone has taught me. Please do share some of your biggest lessons. If what you have learned is similar to what I've, kind of spoken about, please do say. If there's something else, that you think I've missed, obviously I didn't include everything. This list is not exhaustive, but I just wanted to keep it short. I think these are just like my main things that I've learned. So if there are things that you've also learned from living alone, please do share them, but also just kind of like bring it back. And in the greater scheme of things, going back to what I said earlier, I think a lot of the time we want to so badly to move past our stages. When we're living with our families, like, oh, I can't wait for the day that I live alone. Or when you're living alone, you're like, I can't wait for the day when I like get married and have kids. And then when you do have kids, you're like, oh my word, I so miss the time that I lived alone. It was so quiet. So whenever we are in a season, for some reason or another, we always find a time in our minds that we think would be or was better. And I think, the main takeaway that I would like for you to grab from this video is just a moment of pause. Just where you are in the space that you're at. And just whether it's with living with your family, whether it's living alone, whether it's sharing with flatmates or roommates, whether you like them or not, whether you're trying to find a place to stay, or just whatever other circumstance you're finding yourself in, just kind of finding a moment of pause. And just thinking to yourself, number one, being grateful, okay? Being grateful for the position that you are in at the moment. And secondly, just thinking to yourself, what is this moment teaching me? What can I learn from this current setup? Because sometimes we try so hard to move past, to move fast, to go to the next, that we miss the now. So I really think it's important to grab whatever lessons that you're in. Yes, sometimes the spaces that we're in can be uncomfortable, but it doesn't mean that there's no room for growth, right? So allowing whatever circumstance you're currently in to force the character that you need for the next stage, in your life, and allowing all the parts of you that don't deserve to be a part of your future self to be pruned away. So with that, I really do hope that you get to appreciate whatever life season that you are in, and you continue to do your best to do, be, and become. Until the next video, O Team, keep well.